Angela, the psycho killer, is back for the third time, and the last time being played by Pamela Springsteen. Now we're talking about Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, and this is a brand new 4K UHD release from Scream Factory. Now this is my first time seeing the film, and we're going to talk about that reaction here in just a moment. We're going to talk about this new 4K transfer, and we're going to talk a little bit about this release. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. And as you can see, I'm an avid physical media movie collector, and I've been doing review videos on this YouTube channel for a little over a year now. Now I've had this channel for over 18 years, and you can see my content I was doing before that as well. And I've also have over 25 years experience in the film and video industry as a writer, director, and actor. I recently did a review of Sleepaway Camp 2 on my channel, and you can check that out. Now, this came out at the same time on Scream Factory. I got it as a bundle with Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. And they were, when they were shot in 1988 and 1989, they were shot back to back. But they were released previously by Scream Factory on Blu-ray as well at the same time. But they've always kind of been, they were shot by the same director, and they both stars Pamela Springsteen as Angela, and they both kind of have the same feel, and we're going to talk a little bit about that more in just a moment. Now, this is an alternate slipcover for Sleepaway Camp 2. Now, there is also an alternate slipcover for Sleepaway Camp 3 as well, and I'm going to show that to you here in just a moment. Here's the original Sleepaway Camp 2 cover, and I think many of us from back in the day remember seeing these in the video store, sitting on the shelf, and these just kind of just popped at you. It was like, whoa, I really want to see that. And I think at the time I was too young to see them, but I've seen them now for the first time recently, and I'm going to talk about my impression of that here in just a moment. Now, Angela, the character Angela, originally played in the first Sleepaway Camp, which the first Sleepaway Camp does have a Scream Factory release on Blu-ray only. This one has not been granted a 4K release, but it does have a Blu-ray release, which is pretty solid, and we'll talk about the reason behind that here in just a moment. But so Felissa Rose played the character Angela originally, and Angela, and here's a little spoilers, I think, because we're into the third one, so even though it is spoiler, we're here, so I have to tell you. But Angela, and this is a little offensive, I think, for some people these days. It doesn't offend me, but at the same time, I think they really downplayed these elements, especially in the third one. But Angela starts off is the killer in the first one. She is like one of the camp members in the first one, but she is actually a he. And at the end of it, she takes off her clothes, and you see her dick, and it's like or his dick, but it's really like the actress is an actress. But she has like the guy who's playing her at the end has like a mold of her face on his head. But anyway, so what happened is she was like adopted by her aunt after her parents died, and then her aunt decided to change her into a boy, and that kind of turned her psychotic, and that's why she started trying to kill people, just trying to fight those two identities. And maybe she would have turned into a psychotic killer anyway, maybe. But so what happens in the second one? In between the first one and the second one, she has a sex change operation. We assume that is told in a campfire story in the second one. So we kind of think that it's probably true. You never see this character nude in either 2 or 3. So we don't know for sure, but we're assuming the character had a sex change operation and is now a fully functional female. There is only one scene in Sleepaway Camp 3 that kind of alludes to this, when the girls are changing, all the girls taking off their clothes, and you actually see their boobs pretty good, but then Angela just takes off her one shirt, and she has a really big, ridiculous bra on under it. Really, like, I don't know why all of them don't have bras on, but at the same time, but it was nice seeing the boobs there. But Angela has this really big bra on, and they even make a comment about it. But that's really the only time there's ever any alluding to her sexuality within the course of this film. In the second film, she is a camp counselor. Like, she comes back to a different camp, and she's a camp counselor, and she kills like 19 people within the course of the movie. That's said in this one. In this third one, now, a lot of people I don't know a lot of people, but I have seen this online, people talking about 2 and 3. And some people seem to think that 2 is superior to 3, and that 3 is like not very good. But to me, 3 is very similar to the second one. It has a very similar 80s camp tone. It has this very similar, almost, it is, they're both, to me, are completely hilarious. And they're borderline, like, spoof of horror films, even though there are real stakes in here. And nothing's ever, I mean, it's not like scary movie type of spoof, but it does lean very heavily towards horror comedy in a very awesome way, but it is also very gruesome and often mean-spirited, the way Angela kills the people in the film. But so in the second one, she's a camp counselor, and she gets away at the end. And then in the third one, they reopened the camp a year later. The same camp. Originally, it was called like Camp Rolling Hill, and they have some very nice T-shirts that they wear. In the third one, they've got a new camp, and it's called Camp New Horizon. But it's at the same location, and it's the same location. They have a rec room that's the same. It's the same location as the second one because it is the same building, and they also got the exterior of the rec room. So it's pretty much the same camp, but they've renamed it and they've reopened it. This time, instead of being a counselor, Angela has killed one of the students who was supposed to be coming to the camp and has taken her identity. And she has this kind of funky looking hair, the girl. And then I guess she's wearing like a wig to kind of look like it. And she wears that wig the whole film. I assume it's a wig because she never takes it off, and it's never shown to be a wig. But maybe it's kind of looks kind of funny the way she looks with that hair on. But in this one, so she comes into this new camp, and they're doing something now. I would say like a similar type of plot happens in a way, but they do some very clever things with this script that kind of subvert expectations. But at the same time, so she comes in and there's two different. The camp people have decided to do something really ridiculous. Now it's being ran by the two new people. Michael J. Pollard plays the guy, and then his wife, and then later on a third camp counselor shows up, and this is a second tie to the second movie. He is a police officer who was in charge of the original investigation, whose son was killed in the second one. So there's three counselors. The students they're doing some experiment where they've got two different types of students together. They got kind of riffraff people from the urban area, and then they got some really higher class campers, and they're kind of mixing them together and seeing how they behave. Now, some of these the urban ones are very, like, they're not well behaved at all. They actually seem very violent. This one guy has a gun and a knife and things of that nature. But it's maybe some people find offense to that because it is a little bit of racial stereotyping going on in there. But I think it's all in good humor. So I think everyone seems to be having a good time, and you also get some inclusiveness going on there with a bunch of different races put together in this film, which is unique to this particular one. So not that there was like different races in some of the other ones, so it's very predominant in this one. And it's funny though that they split up into three different camps, and she goes with like the first one. She ends up with the first one first, and all these campers eventually disappoint her in a way, and she is able to kill them or slaughter them in some like really like gruesome way, and so she goes from one to the next and so forth. So that's kind of how the whole plot's set up, and that's about all I'm going to necessarily say about the plot. But I will say it was very entertaining, and I really got a kick out of this one and the second one, really. So let's take a look at this physical packaging. So again, here's this original cover for the film that I think a lot of us are familiar with, and this same one on the back. There's not a reversible cover here. You're just going to have some like a white back on this. And then on the inside, we only have one disc. Now, this is something that's a little disappointing about these releases. And the same thing with Sleepaway Camp 2 is there is not a Blu-ray in this set. So it is unfortunate because you can't. I mean, I couldn't compare the quality of a Blu-ray to the 4K. Plus, it's most of the time with Scream Factory, they'll have a Blu-ray and a 4K. Unlike like a company like Arrow, they do this a lot. So I'm not sure what. Hopefully, they don't keep doing this, but that's how they did it this time. But let's take a look at the alternative slipcover. Now, this is quite sweet. And here you go, Sleepaway Camp 3, the alternate slipcover. I really like this artwork. Now, the original one is iconic and it's very simple, but I do like how dynamic this is. And it looks very similar to the other one. On the back of it, we got one of the characters who was killed. I'm not going to say who the character is, but he's hung upside down after he's killed. On the inside of it, this is an unrelated film, Pet Sematary 2, which I'm going to do a Conversations in Horror podcast on this later today, but that's why I just have it sitting here. But this is completely unrelated to Sleepaway Camp. So let's go ahead and read a little bit about this transfer, and I'm going to talk about the extras a little bit. It says, new 4K restoration of the 35mm inner positive presented in Dolby Vision. Now, this is also in HDR, and the HDR looks quite nice. It doesn't like I think the skin tones look very natural in this one. Now, it is from the 35mm inner positive and not the original camera negative. Now, the original camera negative has been lost for all three of these films, unfortunately. So you got the second best thing, which is the inner positive. But it's still, I think it looks pretty good for the most part. It does look. Now, a lot of this film takes place outside in the woods, and it does have a nice fall leaves throughout, and it looks like it have a very nice continuity as far as I can tell with those fall leaves. It will give you that kind of fall feel, I think, not necessarily a Halloween feel, but it does kind of give you like that early fall, or even like after, depending on where you're at. Like sometimes the leaves don't change until November, but it kind of does give you a very nice fall feeling, and those leaves look really fabulous and in 4K. Now, the film grain is there because this was shot on 35mm film, but it's not distracting. It's not an overabundancy of film grain. It's not like a wall of film to stand between you and watching what's going on the screen, but it does look very, very cinematic, and it looks very appealing. I think that they've done a good job with this transfer. As far as the black levels, they look fairly natural. I feel like maybe they could have been a little darker in the darker areas and a little brighter. They could have brought it down a little bit, but maybe they couldn't though. I don't know. Maybe because it's the inner positive, but I think in general, though, everything looks to be fairly sharp and in focus and fairly clean. This is clearly a low-budget film, but it does have a lot of nice kills in it, and I think that kind of helps the ambience of the low budget and the camp part. All that camp stuff, I think it is nice to see like a running, functional camp in this film. I know in a lot of Friday the 13th films, only really the first one when they were trying to get the camp going. Like most of those Friday the 13th films, doesn't even take place at Camp Crystal Lake. It takes place near it. It is nice to see the actual camp going, and it's always been like that. Even in the first Sleepaway Camp film, it was at a camp that was running. With that one had a bunch of kids in it. This one, there's no kids. They're all kind of like, they're all teenagers, or they're supposed to be teenagers. So let's take a peek at the extras here. And I do want to say the audio, as far as I could tell, it sounded really nice. I could hear everything that was going on, but I don't have a surround sound because it would just wake everybody in the house up. So I listened to it through my TV on mono with subtitles. But as far as I could tell, everything sounded pretty solid. Now, there are 3 new extras that were produced for this particular release, and one is it says a Return to Sleepaway Camp 3, which is there was one of these on the second one. It was an interview with counselor Jeff Hayes, who wrote a Sleepaway Camp book, and here he talks about he has a lot of knowledge of these films, and he does talk about the third one here. And there's also an interview with a stunt coordinator, and there's another one with the songwriter. So they sing a song in here that's quite hilarious. And there's a lot of other extras that have been released on previous editions, but it's good to have them back on here. You need all those extras. So let's go ahead and rate Sleepaway Camp 3 on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I'm going to give Sleepaway Camp 3 Teenage Wasteland, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the second one was a lot of fun as well. And I would really recommend watching both of them as kind of like a double feature. It's like, boom, boom, Sleepaway Camp 1 and 2. Let's watch them double feature night. Or separately. I should watch them on 2 different nights, but fairly close to each other. I found them both to be quite charming. It might not be for all taste. If you don't like your horror extra silly, you're not going to like this. And if you don't like it extra violent and a little mean-spirited, you're also not going to like this as well. Now, as far as what Scream Factory has delivered here, I'm going to give them a 4-star rating out of 5. And I would have given them a little higher had they had a Blu-ray in here. I don't like it that they don't include the Blu-ray, but I do like what they've done with the transfer. I think it looks as good as they're going to get at this point, unless they were able to get that original camera negative. And I do like their artwork here. I like the way I do like this newly commissioned artwork, and I do like the original cover as well that looks like this. And speaking of this, if you go directly to the Scream Factory site, you can get, if they're still available, you can get a bundle that has these posters in it. Now, this is a reversible poster. That's another drawback to this. On the back side of this is Sleepaway Camp 2, so it isn't, a lot of times they'll release 2 posters, at least 1 for each film, and then even a lot of times they'll give you 4 of them, be like each of the alternatives as well, but they haven't done that, unfortunately, here, but they did give us this one here. Well, not really give it to us. I had to order it from their site and pay for it, but you get my gist. But here is, it's like a collage of both films. This will not fit into a standard, it won't fit into a standard frame, unfortunately, but it's pretty cool. Maybe I'll buy a frame to put this on the wall. Probably not, but maybe I will. I don't know exactly what to do with it, since it won't, like, I've got like a big binder that I put all these other ones in, and this one won't even fit into that. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on the Sleepaway Camp franchise and which one you like the best. And if you would do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, if you would subscribe to my channel. And you see this box right here. If you click on this box, it's going to bring you to a review that I did of Sleepaway Camp 2. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Thanks for watching.